Hello and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I am your host, back finally, Star Wars Alliance. Now, of course, I have been back in other episodes. I've snuck in a couple times, of course, as well. Um, but I am back. Clayton here, fanboy Clay, new dad. Um, and I am also here with Katie.
Hi, you remembered to introduce me this time.
I think on both of our book reviews that we just did, reminder that we have Quest of the Hidden City in the feed. Go listen to it. I'm still a little frustrated at the fact that the audio book is still not on Audible.
I'm so mad. And Disney, I really appreciate you greatly. And I appreciate that you've given us the free books and that we got to read these ahead of time. But like I love getting to listen to audiobooks because it just gives you such a new perspective into what's going on. And I- so they tweeted about the book and was like, "Oh yeah, this book is out. Go get it now at your favorite bookstore or whatever." And I was like, "Is there going to be an audiobook?" Because and I said this the day of, which was
Yeah.
last Tuesday, and it's still not.
I
So,
forgot about looking it up for an update on anything until today
mhm,
when Audible sent me a random notification for a random series that I've never even heard of, and I'm like, "Well, at least this series has a freaking Audible and not
yep.
Quest of the Hidden City," which is really, really disappointing. But, you know, I digress because I will say this. We have had the great opportunity to get some of these books in advance, as well as the lovely Katie. Remind me of their new name, uh,
Random House Worlds.
Random House Worlds, giving us the audio drama in advance for Convergence. Which
Yes.
update, I did update
Mhm.
Katie on this, I think today, this morning. I have finished two parts of that book. I'm on the last two parts, and my gosh, of course, no spoilers, even though the embargo is up. I'm not going to put too much out there. It has been a great book so far. I cannot wait to talk about it later this month. And we will be planning on recording that before Thanksgiving. And we will most likely drop it before Thanksgiving and then that episode day, which our
Yep.
episode does drop on Thursday. It will drop on Thanksgiving. So we will re-release it after the release of after the official release of the book. So that's going to be all fun and dandy. Now, before we jump into this awesome Andor review, we have some news. But before that, just want to go ahead and give a shout out to the guys over at Geekverse. They had an amazing 24-hour stream. Go check that out. Katie completely annihilated every single person, including myself, in the Star Wars part of trivia.
Okay,
I
but like I got them on StarWars.com. It's not like I went into the deep Netherlands of Star Wars trivia and said, "What is the hardest question I could give y'all?" Now, like I did say, like because I did this all when I was driving with Matt in the car, and Matt was driving, and I was looking up trivia questions, and I was like, okay, here's my top three choices, and I did. I picked like the medium to hard questions because, like, other ones were like the Luke, I am your father line or whatever. It was stuff like that, and I was like, that is not going to be that easy. And then I was listening to the Outlaw do the Marvel questions, and I was like, oh shit, my questions are really hard compared to these. And it's like, damn. Because, okay, so I think I missed the score conversation, and I do plan on going back and watching. I'm hoping Snell will just put the trivia video together so that it can just be one watch. But so I've been waiting on that. I don't think that's gonna happen now though. But I think there was like y'all got right 17 out of his 20 questions, I think was what it was.
I think something around that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah,
compared
y'all
to
get
you, I
7 out
think
of 20.
yeah. Yeah, complete opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to the questions. I I think it was Ray that the moment you asked the very first question, he was like, "Oh no." Like I think all of us were like, "Oh, we did not study for this test. This was not put into the curriculum. We're screwed." Uh and it
I
was
think the first question
absolutely
I asked
hilarious.
for people who are referencing, I said, "What group does Qui-Gon Jinn call a coward?" And
Yeah.
and in my defense, I was well, not in my defense, in y'all's defense, I did change the verbiage of this question because the question was originally like, "What race does Qui-Gon Jinn call a coward?" And I was like, "Well, I can't say race." And my multiple choice answers for that one was Gungans, Neimoidians, droids, and the Jedi Council, which I gave to people. And so it would have it would if I had said like the race part, it would have been Gungans or Neimoidians. And
Yeah.
that's no fun to anyone. Like
But I also, Katie, I also think majority of the people that were there would have still been super stumped, just throwing all of that in there.
and
So,
now that I think about it, for the past 2 years, I think Star Wars is always the least answered one. So I don't feel quite as bad looking back at the previous ones because it's like I remember because I didn't participate in last year's, but I remember listening in on it, and I think there was like 4 out of 20 got answered when I was
yeah,
listening last year.
and I will give a shout out to Brent because I know he's probably saying, "I got one of those questions right." Yes, you did, Brent. In last year's trivia, you did get that question right on the Star Wars part of that trivia. But it was either way, it was a fun time. Everybody was laughing, very sportsmanlike for everybody involved, even though we beat Travis. So that's the only thing that really matters.
And
Uh
I do have a general question for listeners because this was a hot topic. Okay, one of the questions was, "What is the first word of the opening crawl in The Force Awakens?" And this got asked to Chris, and Chris was like, "Episode." But the problem is that originally, when you think of the opening crawl for Star Wars: A New Hope, when it came out, Star Wars was just Star Wars. So there was no episode title or anything in front of it. It just started out with
But then
the crawl.
that technicality then becomes, "Oh, well, that was A New Hope, not Force Awakens." So, you see, I think
Right, but that's the original definition of opening crawl was it without the titles. And so you think about it, and that would have been a huge gimme question. Like, why would I have given you that type of question? So,
yeah, I mean, I still think that it should have been Luke because that's my way of thinking,
mhm.
but on a technicality, like Brent and Chris were yelling on the trivia, it should have been episode. But I digress.
I
Let's
guess
go
I
ahead.
could have like attempted to give them credit and like done like the what does everybody else think? But it was really hard to like process what was going on because I was on my phone and I could only see the person who was talking. So I couldn't see everybody else's faces.
Oh, that's
And so I was just
true.
like, I don't know what to do. Plus, like, it would have helped anyways because it was one question. So,
Oh, man.
anyways.
That's awesome. But we do have a lot of well, I say a lot. I think there's a good clump of that news being, of course, the huge Acolyte update that we got as far as description and some casting news. But Katie, we'll leave that for last. What are some other things that showed up during the week that we can talk about?
Okay, so we said we're sorry, I'm doing the tweet things. Um, because I forgot to put it in the group chat. Okay, so we're leaving Acolyte for last. Okay, so real quick, so Claudia Gray, the only thing she is writing for phase 2 of the High Republic is a one-shot comic entitled Quest for the Jedi. And it is a one-shot comic via Dark Horse Comics. And it has been delayed to March 1st, 2023, and it used to be February 8th, 2023. And that's the second time that one has gone through a delay. Sucks. But also, like, it is what it is. I think most comics right now are having to struggle with priority because we've already seen the Blade get delayed. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Uh, this I was looking forward to this one just because, of course, this is a Dark Horse comic, and we have just recently started getting the Dark Horse early readers uh, for, of course, the comics, and so I was looking forward to this. Of course, we
Yep.
have barely been getting those, and so I was like, okay, I'm not really reading anything outside of Star Wars at Dark Horse, so that's really all I was waiting for, and knowing that it is getting delayed just kind of like just pushes that anticipation, which is fun, but also kind
Yeah.
of just disappointing for the fact that we won't be able to read it until next year. Well, later into next year because it was already going to be what was the original date on that again?
So the first delayed date was February 8th. I don't know where it was before that. I think it was like late December, I want to say.
Okay, so it was supposed to be this year.
I think it was originally supposed to be this year. But like I imagine we're going to continue seeing delays because right now, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is like I think every Star Wars comic, but like two are dropping issues that day.
Wow,
So there's
that's
like eight Star
crazy.
Wars comics coming out that day, and I'm like, that's not gonna happen. Like we're gonna see some delays.
Lots of reading. So of course that is Dark Horse. Now the other piece of news that we got comes from Deadline. Justin Kroll tweeted this out exclusive with Deadline. Even as he readies Deadpool 3 as his next film, Sean Levy is building up to the dance card in a big way as he is in talks to direct a secret Star Wars film for Lucasfilm. Now, I made some jokes, of course, in the chat with this, and then it came on to a little bit debate on whether like this is technically announcing or not announcing, scoop or whatever. Um, but all I see is Star Wars film for Lucasfilm. Katie, do we really think this movie is coming out?
Britt and I talked about this last week too with the Damien Lindelof film that he's writing, and they pulled on one of the Miss Marvel directors, which would be the first female director that for a Star Wars film. Sorry, y'all, I got my hair done and I left it long last week instead of chopping it off like I normally do, and it's really bugging me right now. um, so it will be interesting to see. I really enjoyed Levy's last couple of films. So I think this could be a good one to add to the roster. There is no word on plot, like who's writing the script, or where it's going to take place, or anything. But funny enough, Levy's the first one to actually comment on a Star Wars film because
Oh,
he did, and he
that's
was like,
right.
younger Sean would be ecstatic right now. Adult Sean is just as excited, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I can't find the tweet that I originally like
You
grabbed.
shared it in the GUA chat and not the Star Wars chat, and we always talk like all day, and so it just gets pushed and pushed and pushed. So I would need to go try to find it. Uh,
I'm trying to find it right now. Let me just.
but
Oh,
I
yep.
oh go
Childhood me is losing his shit right now. Grown up me is too.
That's awesome. And for the fact that like it almost sounds like he didn't know, like, oh shit, I'm
Yeah.
directing a movie. Um, I would bet that I think this out of any movie that Star Wars has recently announced or hinted at possibly announcing in the future, I think this might have the most probability of playing out. And the only reason why I say that is because of the success that Sean has had in the last few years.
I
Um,
have to wonder. I have to wonder if maybe potentially he is picking up maybe Watiti's film. Um because Waititi has
Oh,
been so busy.
yeah,
So maybe that's what's happening there, and Waititi may move to more of an executive producer role or something along those lines.
yeah,
Um, because I feel like they have like the same personality filmmaker wise.
yeah,
Um, that could be beneficial one way or another. I think Levy's going to be a little more like stick to the book type.
yeah.
But yeah.
And I mean, one of the biggest jokes in the Adam Project is that a lightsaber? Is that a
Yeah.
lightsaber? I think I this role is perfect for Sean to be setting this movie up for his director role. Uh, I'm really excited about it. Now, of course, we probably won't hear anything else about this movie anytime soon.
Right,
Uh,
because he's supposed to take on this film after Deadpool 3 and Stranger Things, because he's supposed to be directing 2 episodes for Stranger Things, because that's a show he helped create. So he's supposed to be directing 2 Stranger Things episodes and then going into his Deadpool 3 work, and then he would be doing this project. So,
okay, see, well, wait, so it's Deadpool 3, Stranger Things, and then this, or Stranger Things, Deadpool, and then this?
uh,
Because I recently
so
saw,
Deadpool three's release date is November 8th, 2024, currently.
yeah,
And I think Stranger Things is early 2024. Um,
from
yeah,
what,
so it says Levy will focus on this one after he completes the job directing Deadpool 3.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm assuming Stranger Things is going to come first, and then it will be Deadpool 3.
makes sense, makes sense.
Yeah. And there's less because it's only 2 episodes for Stranger Things, and I'm sure he's got yeah, Levy also executive produces Stranger Things, so he'll have like roles in that one. Um, but I imagine he'll probably work on both Stranger Things and Deadpool 3 pre-production at the same time and kind of get those started.
Yeah, I am pretty sure somebody involved in Stranger Things posted a picture of the first script for season 5 of Stranger Things. So I
Yes.
know that is already moving faster than I thought it was going to. Because I don't think anybody really expected it to be fairly quick for that release to come out. And they look like they were just chugging along. So I'm really excited for Sean to see what he can do inside of the Star Wars universe. Now, I will say, if I see Ryan Reynolds in that movie, it's gonna take me out of it completely. That's my only
And
thing.
I I would love to see Ryan Reynolds in a Star Wars movie. So I don't have a ball in that fight one or another.
Well, see,
Um, I
it
think
would
he'd be
be.
great.
I think that he could be a, and people are gonna set me on fire for this one, a Han Solo type, a scoundrel, some sort of thief, like something silly,
Oh,
but
I want to see him wield a lightsaber. I want to see him wield a lightsaber so bad.
I can't see him as a Jedi. I'm sorry. I absolutely
You
cannot.
don't think he could be Elzar Man?
No. 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 Now, again, I understand, like, I'm pretty sure Ryan has been the hottest man, men's health, whatever, you know, and Elzar Man is probably, fairly good looking from what we have been described. Uh, but I just can't see it. I cannot see it. Um, Again, I think him being put like front and center of a Star Wars film would take me out of it too much. And I think this would be the only time that I agree with Snell's take with, oh, that star is too big for Star Wars. I think Ryan is too big for Star Wars.
I don't think there's any star too big for Star Wars. So
On the game, just commented here saying he's so typecast at this point. would love him to play against that type like he did in the movie Buried. Now, all in the game, I will admit, Buried was a movie that I've always wanted to see, but didn't. So I need to go check that one
Never
out.
heard of it.
Ooh, on the list. Put it on the list.
I need to get back to my Excel sheet instead of my Post-it notes because I lost my Post-it note for Slice of Film for the rest of the year. I'm sure it's in this pile of Post-it notes back
Oh,
here
that's
somewhere,
awesome.
but I've had to keep so many notes on podcasts that they're all just back there in case like you or I lose one when you go to edit it. So I don't know.
Oh man. Well, outside of the Sean Levy news, we also got this random leak info that it's really funny because this came out right after the announcement that Sandman was getting a season 2 due to a DC Comics leaked tweet. We have a leaked tweet from well, actually, I don't know where. Oh, right here. It's a leaked tweet from Disney Plus IT saying that Star Wars Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies will release on November 12th, 2022. And then I checked the calendar literally before we started recording here tonight. November 12th, 2022 is a Saturday. That's a really odd drop date. Why would they drop it on a Saturday?
You know, I was gonna make some bullshit excuse about time zones and like because this is coming from Disney Plus Italy. So okay, maybe it drops on Saturday because time zones. But no, that doesn't work that way because Italy's not 23 hours ahead of us or whatever. Um, so it would still drop afternoon their time on Friday. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they have to release things on different days there in Italy. Um, the post has since been deleted, so we don't really know.
Yeah,
But
we don't know. But just the title itself, Grogu and Dust Bunnies. How do you feel about this? I have worn my Grogu shirt just because of this news. But like for one, it says nothing about whether this is live action or animated.
right.
How do you feel about the title and what it could possibly be?
It does say Star Wars Zen, and we knew kind of like meditation type things were going to be coming to Disney Plus, just because that's something like Star Wars does, and there's been like meditative Star Wars books. Like there's like Be More Zen already, which is I think written by the Nerdist editor in chief, Amy Radcliffe. Um, and then like Be More Obi-Wan and stuff, like how to set things up. Ashley Eckstein also did a meditation book. So it makes sense. And if it's something they want to get kids involved in and go, okay, here, we're going to teach you how to meditate and work through all these things, then I think that's a wonderful idea. Um, obviously, it's kind of like a play it by ear as you go, and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. I'll give it a watch.
That reminded me when you said like meditative Zen. Star Wars Galaxy of Sounds
Yep,
and
those are amazing.
vehicle
I love those.
fly-throughs and biomes. This could be just an addition to that. And
Yeah.
guys, these are really cool. Like honestly, what you could do and what I have done literally before, um, I am more productive when I am listening to something while doing chores throughout the house. And if I don't have really anything to listen to, this is like a really fun background just to have,
Hmm.
like the galaxy of sounds and just go through all of that, right? I think it would be a cool, like almost wall decoration if you place it on your TV and like Grogu is just like chilling out, doing random things. almost like I could easily equate it to what they did with Groot,
Yeah, that's
the mini episodes, but not, of course, so cinematic, not a whole lot of lines like the other ones had. And of course it was just Groot, so there wasn't much lines, and I know Rocket was in one episode. But this, he doesn't talk. Grogu doesn't talk. So I think it would just be his actions, kind of like everything else going on around him would probably more of the sound. So
and
it
the
could
baby
be something like
coos.
that. Yes, and the
The baby
baby coos,
coos.
of course. I think it could possibly be something like that, but I would really be interested if this was in fact animated, and because again, I have not dealt with animation, and I know they've already had, or they already have, the puppet for Grogu. So I feel like if they absolutely wanted to make this live action, it wouldn't be very hard to do it. Uh, but at the same time, I feel like animation probably could be done pretty fast. You know, I think they've perfected the Star Wars CGI esque animation, and they could do it fairly quickly. But either way, I am really interested to see if, in fact, this does come out in literally 3 days. We have heard nothing since that leak. So if it doesn't come out, that's probably why. But who knows? Either way, I'm still really excited for more Grogu later next year. But if I get him this year, that's cool too. All right. So outside of that, some other small things. Katie informed me because I informed her about this deck building game we're going to be talking about later. But Katie has informed me in the summer of 2023 there is going to be a miniatures game, of course, by Osmode, called Star Wars Shatterpoint, and it's a miniatures game. Katie did not know what miniatures were, so I showed her right before this episode started. This gets me super excited because, for one, my pockets have never been more empty, and they're only going to get more empty after this. Because the one thing that I've always wanted to get into is painting miniatures. It's just something that I've always heard is super relaxing, can just like take a quarter or if not the whole day to do, and just you kind of just zen out. Uh, call back to the last conversation we just had. But these miniatures I showed Katie, most of them come unfinished. You paint them yourselves, and then you play a game with them. Uh, how this will go about, I have no idea. I have not watched the trailer that is out. You can always go check out, of course, the one place we get all of our Star Wars news. That is, of course, Star Wars News Net. They have an article on it, and they do have a trailer here for that. Uh, so I am super excited to check this out. I'm super excited to hopefully be buying some minis next year and painting those. It takes a lot of skill. I'm probably gonna have to buy a pretty nice magnifying glass. And I'm actually playing the video right now on mute. These look so detailed. They looked great, or they look great. Um, Now, of course, I don't know how like if terrain is gonna be also be sold separately, or if we have to make that ourselves. But either way, these look immaculate. Of course, some other minis that more people would be familiar with. I've never played it, but there is a Star Wars version of D&D. It gets super complicated, I've heard. So I've never touched it. Uh, and I don't know if HeroClix ever got in touch with Star Wars, but I think that would be a fun game to have in the Star Wars genre of things. But it does say summer of 2023, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I guess my only question would be because these are characters from the Star Wars universe, I don't know if you're going to be able to paint them. I would think that they're going to come because Star Wars is kind of set on like a character looks a specific sort of way. So that would be my only question.
That would be interesting. Um, because the trailer did show them fully painted. Uh, Now, of course, that they could tell you, like, hey, this shoulder piece is painted this color, and they could have like an instruction booklet with each piece. I think that would be kind of cool. Give uh customers or of course fans that buy these a little bit more instruction on how to make a screen accurate character for their
Yeah.
game. Uh, but I don't know, because I also think it would be really fun to kind of decorate your own clone troopers, because we know they have had some crazy colors in
Yeah.
their design during the Clone Wars. So I think that would be kind of cool too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, of course, speaking in the game realm, there is, of course, a deck building game coming from Fantasy Flight Games releasing March 2023. Joe, I know this is calling your name. I don't know how I'm going to be getting into, if I'm going to be getting into this one. Shout out to the current game that I'm getting into, Marvel Snap. But this here, I've always dabbled into playing cards, whether that be Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z. I've dabbled into a lot of stuff. Uh, and I think I might just dabble into this one, if not just collect. It really depends on how savvy this card game is. Looking at the pictures currently, it doesn't look like it's too complicated. It says over 50 unique cards. Take command of your favorite characters, vehicles, and starships. And of course, iconic bases. Choose your base from 10 different locations. Each one has a powerful ability. There's a whole bunch of components in a current deck box, that being 10 Emperor starter cards, 10 Rebel starter cards, 90 Galaxy cards. This looks like it's going to be a beefy game. So
Yeah.
I
No,
might check it out.
Matt and I are really into cards, so this might actually be one that I check out. Because it is a two-person game too. So he and I could play it on a date night or something and just kind of delve into it and see what happens. Um, because like the miniatures, as much as they're like cool, like I finally opened my Funko Pops, y'all. So like I have all my Funko Pops out in the wild, which I have 5 Funko Pops, so I'm not anywhere close to some people. Uh but yeah, I cards have always been something that's just really peaceful for me to do. It's and I get super competitive. Um so it could be really fun. I will probably check this one out.
Nice. Very nice. Now, before we get into all of the Acolyte stuff, small little tidbit from Andy Circus, since he has been playing a role in, of course, Andor. Andy Circus reveals he would be interested in someday directing his own Star Wars project after returning in Andor. He says it's the most incredible universe, and any director would love the opportunity to do that. So, how do you feel about Andy Circus joining a team and creating their own Star Wars project? Now, I will say this: I love him as Snoke. I love him in this role in Andor. But for me, the only thing that I've seen him direct is Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I was trying to pull up my letterbox for my Let There Be Carnage rating. A 3.5. I remember really liking it. Um, I thought it was good. I it was cheesy, and y'all know how I enjoy my cheese. Yeah, that's just me. Um, I would love it. I said this on my Twitter circle, but I would love a chance to interview Andy Serkis one day, and if he comes to Star Wars, that just means it's even more likely. So, um, he is one of my favorite actors, and I think this arc for Andor just proves how great he is, even beyond the motion capture. So I would totally be down.
So he has also directed Mowgli: Legend of the Jungle, as well
Okay, I
as
actually remember that one.
The Ruins of the Empires and a movie called Breathe. So I don't know. I think I've seen. See, I don't remember if
And he
I've.
helped direct some of the scenes on The Hobbit.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I
It
don't.
says he was second unit director in The Hobbit.
Okay. Okay. See, I think I've only seen the Disney, like, newer live action of the Jungle Book Mowgli story. And this one actually came out around the same time. So I haven't
Yeah,
seen this one. This one is on Netflix, but I did not see that one. All right.
I would be interested in that. That seems very interesting. It also says he's supposed to be directing an Animal Farm adaptation, so that'll
Huh.
be interesting.
I think that with how he has portrayed, of course, Snoke, and the amazing job that he has done in Andor, I think if he was given the opportunity to direct, I think I would want him to, and I know this is kind of like gatekeeping or like limiting him. Uh and I don't necessarily mean it to be that way. I would like to see him do something on the small screen. I think I would love him to do some Disney Plus stuff.
I think so too. Just to kind of continue to get his feet wet and everything. I think he's a great character, and I'm sincerely hoping that Kino Loy sticks around because he's just so great to see on screen. Um, All in the Game said Andy Serkis' best movie is probably the Mowgli movie. Ain't the best filmography from a directing point of view, and that's fair. I mean,
And
it takes a bit.
he only has 5 movies under his director title, So I
Yeah,
still think he's kind of getting the hang of it, and with more
yeah,
movies becomes better practice. It all will give him more experience in becoming a better director. And I
yeah.
think with the interpersonal stories that Disney Plus has been, I think Andy could really help directing that kind of story.
I think so too. Um, and especially just considering like you said, 5 movies under his belt, which for some is quite a lot. But also just like you have to think of the perspective, like he's handled a superhero film and then he did a biographical and now he's going into like an adaptation for one of the most hard it's a hard story to adapt Animal Farm when I picture it in my head, because that's a hard book to read. So just adapting it to a movie would be um, a move all on its own. But getting more under his belt, I'm always a fan of actors choosing to direct because I think they can offer a unique perspective. Like some of Supergirl's best episodes, I think, were ones directed by Melissa and the sister. Um, I can't remember her name for the life of me. But yeah, I really enjoyed some of those episodes. So same thing
Yeah.
with Legends of Tomorrow. I think Katie, her episodes were some of my favorite. So
Yeah. And I think same thing with Smallville. Tom Welling was behind the director's chair a couple times
no,
after I think season 8, and he did a great job with that
yeah,
series as well. Uh but finally we get to this huge Acolyte update. Now,
we got another casting image.
it was one thing that Katie wanted out of all of this stuff. And we did get an image here. It has the 9-panel grid of everybody who's going to be involved. Some of the bigger names, of course, that being, I can never pronounce this first name right. Is it Amon
Amandla,
Amandla
I think
uh,
so. I think
Steinberg, uh, Lee Jung-jae, of course, from
Squid
Netflix
Games.
Squid Games, Manny Jacinto from The Good Place, which I am super excited to see him in Star Wars to see what he can put up in the Star Wars universe. We get Daphne Keene. She was one of the newer announcements. Of course, she played X-23, Logan's daughter, in the movie Logan. We also have Jodie Turner Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Charlie Barnett, Dean Charles Chapman, and one that I did not know was announced for this show, which was a huge surprise to me when I saw this image. Carrie Ann Moss, Trinity herself, is going to
That's
be
brand new
in.
information. Nobody had gotten that one at all. That's brand new information.
This is amazing.
Yep.
I feel like Carrie Ann Moss has the persona and just the face for Star Wars. I don't know. Like,
Absolutely.
I think that she now one of the big things was that we got a new description for this show.
Yes. The description being a former Padawan or I'm sorry, let's start. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever imagined. And the question I pose to you, because we did get an image like we did for Ahsoka, if I can share my screen effectively. So we got a behind the scenes image, and we have Amandla with Lee here talking to Leslie Headland, who's the showrunner. And so the question being, we know Amandla is a main character. We know she is I'm sorry, they are the star of this. So that is so they're probably more in the role of the Padawan. They
Yes.
could be in the master role, but with their age, it's probably more in the Padawan role. And so the question I posed to you was, is Amandla Heave Trennis? And they're using Padawan verbiage to throw us off, and Lee is playing Skier.
Oh,
You missed that question in the
I
chat, didn't
did
you?
I did miss that question in the chat. Wow, I did not see that question. Jai as skier, I don't know. I honestly think it might be a little bit of a uh I don't know how
The
to say
assumption
that.
for the assumption for Lee being the master, right, is because of the behind the scenes image we got, which shows
Yes.
Amandla and Lee
Yes.
side by side. So you think, okay, they're going to be playing in the same scene.
The only thing that I would say for me being against it is I would not want, and of course this is Star Wars, so it's totally hypocritical for me in the sense of like I just want all of the Star Wars. But to put Lee in that much makeup or CGI to make him skier, I think I would be a little bit disappointed because he did such an amazing job with his, I guess, emotional, like physical emotions in Squid Game.
Yeah.
I
No,
think it would be.
I completely get behind that. And because obviously, right, we have oh gosh. Um Han from Fast and Furious.
Oh yes, in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Uh, to continue to typecast an Asian into the alien mask,
Yes.
it is disappointing, right? And Lee, obviously Emmy Award winner for Squid Games, did a fantastic job. And I watched the show. I completely agree with what you're saying. I just am like, ooh, get
Now,
Keeve on screen. Get Keeve.
but that's what I mean when I say how hypocritical it is, because if this is secretly a High Republic project and they haven't said so,
The only thing it says is the last days of the High Republic, and a lot of people are like, oh, okay, well, they're just using the High Republic to bounce off the good credibility that the High Republic is. It's going to have nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
Fine.
But even if it is, and they're putting those characters in this show, that would be amazing. That would I would absolutely love it. If I could say I got to see Skier on, like, whether it be, because it's a small screen or not, I don't care. Like, the one of the big things, and go follow me on TikTok. Uh, I made a video earlier this past month about how I believe the High Republic is a giant door waiting to be open for Disney Plus and Star Wars and Lucasfilm. And I thought that the first inclination of this would be the preschool show that we talked
Yeah.
about several months ago. Uh, but this might be the first inclination of it. And I did mention that on my TikTok. I did say Acolyte could be the big thing that opens the doors for live action High Republic stuff. If that is the case, I'm going to say it. Hashtag Clay told you so. But I would be super excited about it. On the game here says, anyone else dreading the toxic response from some of the fandom to the black woman cast in their show? Unfortunately, on the game, there is going to be the exact same individuals. I won't even call them fans, individuals, because for one, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself said those individuals aren't fans if they are making comments like that. So,
And
unfortunately,
I think Lucasfilm made an impression with a lot of people to come out and actively state stuff. Like I know a lot of the Star Wars fan YouTubers came out and were like, "Oh, I've been told to that I'm no longer a fan of Star Wars. Whatever will I do?" kind of thing. Like, oh, go fuck yourself, man. Like, there is no place for that. You're here for the views. For people getting trying to remember the good old days that weren't really the good old days. Those, and if you're that sort of person, that story's still there. By all means, go back to it. We don't want you here because there's some incredible stories that are here in Star Wars now that you don't get to be a part of because you can't see past. And you want to be racist. So
exactly, 100%. Uh, but I'm sure we will see some of it, or we may not see any of it because of all the stupidness that's going on with Twitter right now. You know. So, by the way, follow both me and Katie over on Mastodon. But
I don't
we
like it. I still don't like it, but
I knew
whatever.
you were gonna say something. But that is basically it for
Twitter has
Acolyte.
been my home.
I
Sorry,
know.
Twitter is how I got started with all my stuff. Like that's how I got involved with all my writing, and then jumped into podcasting. I, I would have never been a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network without Twitter. So it's still very disheartening
Same,
to see it go
same,
down in flames.
100%. I will say this though, like, for somebody who was like big into Facebook, and then like for me, that was like, no more Facebook. I'm jumping to Twitter, and then like all of this stuff. I have no hesitation just jumping onto something else, unfortunately. Um, but although I will say I'm not immediately just deleting Twitter and all of that stuff. I'm gonna hang around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing all this. I'm dabbling myself into Mastodon because I was just really curious. Like, honestly, it could be a giant bomb and I don't even know it. Like, I could just be sitting on a landmine waiting for it to go off.
We just
Um,
need to make a Star Wars Alliance Mastodon account so that people are like, "Oh, Star Wars podcast," and then it's one of the only ones that pops up on there because nobody else has done that yet.
Boom. Yes.
You're in
See,
charge of that one. I made the Instagram.
okay, I will do that. I will do that. But that is basically it for Acolyte. I am super excited that we're getting more into that show as far as news and updates and stuff, which means that it's getting closer and closer, that we will finally probably start seeing some still images. We'll get like more interviews and stuff like that. So I'm really excited. about all of that within itself. I will say, I know that Taylor over there at Geekverse recently had a really big like moment as far as like hating everything that's going on with Star Wars. You know, the one of his quotes was, "We have like advanced in technology, we're building blood in labs, but for some reason Star Wars just can't make a movie right now." Go listen to his rant, it's recent on the Geek First podcast. Love you, Taylor. um and I love your new role in Andor, Taylor, just letting you know that as well. Inside joke for the Discord, go join Geekverse. uh
Also, just as a side note before we jump off, um, did anybody look at Amanda's shirt?
what is it?
Oh fuck. Please hold while I scroll back down. That is a Star
It
Wars Vision shirt right there.
oh, it is. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Now I scroll back out. Anyways,
I'm just a big like just that set photo. Like that just looks like it's going to
yeah,
be really really awesome. But let's finally jump into this awesome heartbreaking episode of Andor titled One Way Out.
yep.
How did you
So
feel about this episode?
I don't like it as much as I like the last episode. I think the last episode is still my favorite. But I'm telling you right now, Andy Serkis and Stellan Skarsgård, if they are not nominated for Emmys for supporting slash guest actor, um, I will be rather pissed off. Because All in the Game brought it up at the beginning before we really got started, and he said Luthen's "What Have I Sacrificed" monologue was chef's kiss. Writing by Bo Willimon, agreed. We've been here all the time. Like Bo Willimon has done an incredible job writing this arc. I'm so happy to see him return for next season. And that bit was it was phenomenal. Stellan Skarsgård, you got chills, you got all the stuff.
Oh,
Um,
and that epic shot, it like gave a shiver down my spine when the door opens. He's standing
yep.
there and his cloak is just like breezing through the wind. Oh, it's such a beautiful shot. I love this show. It is, I think somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I do know, which doesn't really mean anything nowadays. It was somebody with a blue check mark. I knew that it like they were a bigger name, not just us normies. Um, Said that this is quite possibly the most cinematic Star Wars thing that he has ever seen.
Yeah,
Uh, for and I know again sounds a little gatekeepy, but like for a TV show, this show is amazing.
absolutely. 110%. It looks fantastic. Who directed this episode? It's been the same director um all the
This
way through this arc. So
Toby
it's the same one as
Haynes.
this. Who?
Is it Toby Haynes or
Maybe. Come on, Wikipedia. I need you to show up in my results sooner. Um, yes. So Toby Haynes has directed the entirety of this arc. He had previously directed the first 3 episodes as well, so that first arc.
yeah,
I think he's done an incredible job. He's capturing things really fantastically. Um, and we're getting in. So the next 2 episodes will be directed by Benjamin Karen, who directed like episode 7, so the middle episode. He directed that one, and he'll be coming back to direct the last 2. And then Tony Gilroy's returning to write the script for these last 2. So yeah,
very
it was
nice.
just a phenomenal work. Yeah, All in the Game, Toby Haynes and Susanna White have done a great job directing. I completely agree. I particularly liked Susanna White's stuff. I think her directing has been the best for the season, even though I like what Toby Haynes has done.
Yeah,
And I want to see Susanna return to direct more. I believe she's marked down to return for next season as well in the list of directors. Um, so yeah.
yeah. This episode was amazing. of course, I said it in the chat before I had to leave last week. I know that you were hanging out with Brent in that episode, but I left a
Mhm.
little comment there. I was like, man, I know that the shit's about to hit the fan. I just really hope, and I played along with the joke that I've been playing. I hope Snoke survives. Uh, but oh my god, um, I I love the conversation in the beginning of this episode
Yep.
with, of course, Cassian and Kino, with the whole thing about they just killed 2,000 people. What would you call that? I call that power. Oh, is it power or is it nerves? And it really starts to get you in the mind of somebody who has basically submitted to like the imprisonment and somebody who's still willing to fight, like
Yep.
Cassie and Andor. Uh, and we don't really get the plan because even Andy Serkis's character Kino was like, "What kind of plan do you have? Like, what are y'all gonna do?" But we don't get it basically in writing what's gonna happen, which makes the next few scenes so dramatic and so exhilarating for the rest of the episode. But I think
You know what
Andy's
it reminded me of? Just like going ahead and get this out of it because this is a very serious episode and it tackles some really heavy topics, obviously. But like this whole like getting the plan together aspect and like what happens and everything, it reminded me of like High School Musical where it's like gotta get your head in the game and it's like keep your head down, like do what you're told kind of thing. Like we'll get out of here. It reminded me of that. Like we're gonna go into a musical number now. Thank you very much. And I was like, I was waiting for it. I was totally waiting
oh
for it.
god. Oh my
You're welcome.
god.
I made Clay cry laughing now.
Oh,
My work
that's
here is done.
hilarious. Oh, if only Abby listened to my podcast. I think she would have gotten a really big kick out of that one. Oh man. No, but like I think Andy Serkis's performance in this was absolutely amazing. Like I said, he like freaks out in the very beginning because, the last words of the last episode, Cassian Andor asked, "How many guards are on each level?" And he
Yep.
said, "No more than 12." Like, and you think Kino is ready to fight. He's ready to get out of here. And then the opening scene, he freaks out. He doesn't know what to do. He's questioning Cassian and what he's wanting to do. So you're really on the fence of like, okay, is he in? Is he out? What's going to happen? Uh, and then when they're getting to their quarters, when they're getting into their little sections that they sleep in or whatever, everybody's asking them questions. What happened? What's going on? And you just have Andy scream out, "Nobody's leaving." And he then gets really low in voice and is just explaining, like, "We're done. We're dead. Like, no one's getting out of here." And you start to see how, like, he might be losing hope.
Yep.
But at the same
Because
time,
you feel that way while they're in like the shower area, right? Because
yeah,
he goes from like this whole and that was like I think my biggest critique of the episode was like you go from this, oh, there's no more than 12 and we're supposed to believe, oh, this picks right back up where we left off. And all of a sudden he's like hesitant. He's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, what you do you have it? Do you even have a plan? Like that kind of thing. Like it felt like we took a turn from his attitude in the last episode.
I think there was definitely a turn, but I think that it's good writing in the sense of, as I was saying, this individual, Kino, has done so much time and he
Yeah.
has ran through the ranks of being able to be somebody that the guards trusted. He gets to be the boss of his, crew and all of this other stuff. So, like, he does have mixed feelings. And at the end, I legit thought there was going to be a turn. I like because he was hesitant.
When he
There's
takes over at the mic.
no, 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 not there. When they were running out, and let's go ahead and just go all the way to it. He does get the mic and he does have this like small little motivational speech. Cassian's like, that's some
He copies and pastes from what Cassian said,
yeah.
and in the shower area. Like I was like, oh, copy paste much, but like it just goes to show you what role Cassian plays in the rebellion. He always will be the person kind of feeding information in and kind of passing along stuff, and somebody else is always going to take that credit. And not to say that Kino Lori doesn't necessarily deserve to have his moment where he finally realizes, okay, I've been the good soldier, I've been keeping my head down and stuff, but now it's time to get up and fight. But it's always, it felt like a metaphor kind of for what happens with our like justice system and everything. So
Oh, 100%. 100%. But he he does say at the very end, one way out, one way out. And I was like, oh, they said the
mhm.
title of the episode, one way out. And they all start running, and there's only one way out. And it didn't dawn on me until I saw that vast opening. And then one guy fell, and I was like, oh, snap, they're gonna have to swim. We haven't even seen any land. Like, I don't remember
Yep.
seeing anything.
I think you
And
see it briefly when they fly in at the
yeah,
beginning of Narkina 5.
yeah. And Cassian looks back at Kino,
Mhm.
and Kino is hesitant. I thought at that moment he was going to be like, nah, I'm good. But in fact, the most heartbreaking thing happens. Katie,
He
this
can't swim.
he says it really low. I can't swim. I can't swim. And Cassian, through all of the chaos, is like, what are you saying? What's going on? What's going on? And he says, I can't swim. I can't swim. And you just see the devastation on his face. Like the moment of, I'm never getting out of here. Like I can't leave.
And I was like, okay, you're telling me he can't even doggy paddle? Like when most people say they can't swim, like most people can swim. They just have never been in water before.
I thought about this literally all day. Literally. Now, I was listening to, of course, Convergence, which we will be talking about in a few weeks, another plug. But I was thinking about it. What happens to individuals who can't swim? One thing that people do that can't swim when they get into deep enough water, they panic, they freak out,
Mhm,
they start to move their arms and legs in a motion that they shouldn't be moving in as far as like movement as far as momentum forward and backward. The movements that they usually make drag them further down because of, moving up and their arms up and
mhm,
down will push the momentum going actually towards the like underneath the water.
yeah.
So for somebody who is having to drop that far into water and then not know what to do, I think that might be very anxiety driven. Uh and I don't know. Now in my heart I truly hope Kino survives. How? I have no idea
Mm,
because you can't say that, oh, he didn't jump. The guards that were hiding finally went out of hiding and then said, oh, you stayed. We're going to keep you and you're going to be A
no.
OK because he was on the intercom. He said his name, he said who he was, and he gave everybody the battle cry. Like, I think if those guards come out, they're shooting him. I'm sorry. I think that's going to happen. But like I said, in my heart, I hope that there was a few other stragglers that ended up saying, "Hey, you know what? We will help you once you drop." And they all swam to safety. Uh Tayloric? Talaric? Talaric 1? I do not know how to pronounce your name. I do apologize. Says, I think Kino knew when accepting to be part of the escape, he still wasn't leaving. Makes his actions even more selfless.
I don't want to hear that. I want Keto to survive. I don't care about selflessness. I I needed my glup. He's not a glup shitter because he's not a behind the scenes character, but like I need him to survive. I need something good to come out of this series because it's just going to end in heartbreak. We all know it's going to end in heartbreak for Rogue One, I
Well,
need
yeah,
something.
and not only that, I feel like Andor, Cassian Andor, and the series Andor, they are always meant to be like the the bad end of the story. Like
Yeah,
it's I think that even though it is the birth of the rebellion, I don't think these seasons or the series ends well, you know?
yeah.
Cuz I do think like we haven't seen Luthen past the episodes that we've seen him in. He's not in Rogue One. He's not in A New
Well,
Hope.
and like the episode ends with Cassian and Melshi taking off together. And we know Melshi is from Rogue One. So he's going to survive through the 2 seasons. But we don't see any of the other prisoners with them, and we know there's upwards of 5,000 located in, and they all kind of jumped out of 3 different entrances, is what it looked like. Um,
Yes.
so they could have all gone off in different directions and just tried to make it work. Um, but they're all in prison garb, so I'm curious to see if they're just going to skip over it or if they're going to show Cassian and Melshi like being able to um switch out and take off from the planet and get to the rebellion, because I would imagine Vel is going to have a reunion with Cassian at some point because her mission right now is to kill Cassian
Yeah.
and take him out so he doesn't give anything away. So we will see. There's 2 episodes.
I'm really curious on how that like you said, how that plays out. Now, I feel like it might be a little too much as far as like not wasting time necessarily, because I think it would be a really good episode for to see Cassian and Melshi, or how do you pronounce his name?
Melshi.
Melshi, um, find a way off planet and all of that. I think it would be very fun, but I think that we as Star Wars fans and we as the viewers could make sense of if he just pops in somewhere else and we'd be like, okay, he survived, he was able to get here. You know,
Yeah.
we just connect some dots. But moving on to other parts of this episode, the glorious Genevieve Mon Mothma. This scene dealing with oh shoot, what is his name? The guy that they oh shoot, I can't remember.
Davo Skolden.
Yes, Skolden. They have this meeting, and I just did not like this guy. He
I
had us.
totally I saw the marriage proposal thing going, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's not a proposal or anything." Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. But
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
he seems more like sophisticated than your average scoundrel and like wants to play things above board. But he's clearly like that, "Oh, I made myself because I want my kids to have a great future." Because that's the position he's putting in. He
Yeah.
wants to his price for securing the loan is that he wants to come back to Coruscant and he wants to bring his son and he wants Mon Mothma to facilitate an introduction between his son and Leela, I think is her name.
Yes.
Um and she was like, "Oh, so you want a betrothal?" And he's like, "That's not what I said. I just want an introduction." And so, yeah. All in the
All
game
the
agrees.
oh,
He was a very sophisticated gangster, thug, loan shark person. Yep.
he just had this smug look, and I was just like, yeah, don't like you. I'm sorry. Get out of here. And I love when he was like, "Oh, so you'll think about it." And she's like, "I'm not thinking about it."
Yeah.
Like basically like, "No, I'm not even going to entertain this." And again, one of these smug comments, he just looks at her and he says, "Oh, that is the most untruth statement you have said this entire
That's the first
conversation."
that's the first untrue thing you've said this entire time.
And I was just like, "Ugh, get away
I
from me."
was See, I had the opposite reaction because, like, I love, like, scoundrel type people, like, obviously, you love to hate them and stuff, but I was like, "Yes." Like, that was such a good line. It's like, you could tell he read her perfectly, and it's just like, "Oh, I love this." Like, what's she gonna do?
It is good writing, and I think that the best written villains or scoundrels or anti-heroes are the ones that you hate, like you said, you hate to love them. Um, I have just fallen in love with Mothma, like, through this series, and I wanna see more of her, and, like, I am so rooting for her, and so if anybody tries to, like, scratch that bubble that she is in, I'm just like, "Man, like, somebody needs to duke this person out or something." Um, but overall, again, even these small scenes, there is so much weight to them, and I love the writing in it. I am really appreciative of being able to, for myself, for somebody who suffers for extreme ADHD, when there is a moment that I am not interested in, completely zone out. And Andor has kept my attention for every single episode, and I am so happy for it.
I think it struggled, with the first couple of episodes, but it's just kind of, like, getting its footing, not feeling very Star Warsy
Yeah.
because of the lack of droids, and just, like, overall, I guess, like, technology, um, and aliens. Aliens are always a big part of Star Wars, but
Oh, I guess that's true. I didn't even consider that. Like, with every single new setting that we are in, we don't see many,
yeah,
like, dramatic alien species.
the most aliens I think we saw was on the vacation planet. Um,
Yeah.
so I think and maybe Ferrex, but I think that episode on the vacation planet is still the most aliens we saw. Um, so that's just my biggest critique. Um, I do also wish the show was called something else. Because I think while Andor is the main character of focus, we're getting all these other characters, and clearly we're going to be doing different things in season two. You could have called this Rebellion Spark or something. I don't know, but like I wish it was called something else other than Andor because I don't feel Andor is not in enough of it, I guess.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I
Genevieve
well,
is just as much of an important character, Mon
yes,
Mothma.
but I will say that Cassian has been a focal point even when he's not on screen.
Fair, fair, but I still think, and it was one of my biggest critiques of the Flash. Before I stopped watching, was like, okay, we've gotten away from the Flash as a character, and now it's Team Flash.
True.
So I want to, and it's this is not the first time that I'm critiquing Star Wars for this because the novel Thrawn it's got three protagonists. It's got Eli Vanto, Amanda Price, whatever her name is, and Thrawn. So there's three main characters there, and it's not just about Thrawn.
Yeah.
So they just I that's just something that I'm always going to nitpick. I feel like when it comes down to it. So um the last thing I guess kind of about the prison aspect, we do get in that segment that the parts that the prison is building are very important. So it's probably something for the Death Star, I would imagine. And I can hear Palpatine and Tarkin going like, "Why is the Death Star delayed?" It was like we had a prison riot, all of our prisoners escaped, like that kind of
S-
thing. So
Speaking of the Death Star, my guest, of course, or well, Star Wars Alliance guest host for the month of October, Zach, just posted this in Twitter saying, "Big spoilers for today's episode of Andor. Kino not being able to experience the freedom he just bought so many echoes, Castian helping take down the Death Star so well." I agree, and it's something that did cross my mind today that like, oh, that's kind of the same thing. Now,
Yep.
again, like we have said, we all hope Kino survived and is living out there somewhere. Of course, I think now through the time of the sequel series, he's probably past of old age. That's something that I am headcanoning. He had a peaceful life, going back to his family and everything else. Uh,
You didn't see a body. We didn't see a body.
exactly. Uh, but yes, I very much agree that it does echo what Cassian does for uh, the rebellion in the future with Rogue One.
I think so as well. Yeah. Um, so yeah, and Andy Serkis again did an incredible job. I will be very disappointed if he doesn't get um a guest Emmy nomination. And he deserves the award. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, is there anything else in this episode that
We kind of talked around the Luthen part, just at the beginning. I think Stellan Skarsgård is just incredible. He deserves the supporting nomination because Andy Serkis has only been in a couple episodes, whereas Luthen is in
almost
a
been in every single
supporting
one?
role.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only missed one episode. Um, so I think his speech about what he sacrificed was great. I was confused who Lonnie was because I was confused seeing him out of uniform. But they're tying in the Krieger storyline with the oh, what is the assault? It's the assault on a power plant on an S planet name. Sorry, y'all. Drawing a blank. But he's trying Lonnie goes to Luthen to try and provide information. Basically, he's been a mole in the
Yes.
ISB for 6 years now. It looks like at this point, he hasn't had any communication with Luthen for over a year. And so he does this, and it turns out that he is a new father. He wants to get out of the ISB completely, and he is basically trying to turn in his resignation to Luthen because he wants to survive for his daughter. And Luthen's like, you're shit out of luck, man.
I love that like he kind of corners him with like,
Mm-hmm.
what were you gonna tell the Empire? Like
Yep.
you could try to get out with me, but you honestly think the Empire's just gonna let you leave? Like
Yep.
what were you gonna tell him? He's like,
Especially as a supervisor in the ISB.
yeah. He's I think Lonnie says like, oh, I was gonna say something with my health, or like
Sorry.
my
Did you
wife,
say
or like he spouts out all of these different things, and that's when Luthen goes on with his sacrifice
yeah,
quote.
because he asks Luthen, he says, I've sacrificed so much. What have you sacrificed? And that's when Luthen gives his great speech. So Luthen basically leaves him in the ISB and is like, dude, you're SOL. you're stuck here. But Lonnie does give up the name of Dedra Miro and says that he is on the trail of Axis, uh, who and Luthen again plays it off and is like, I had nothing to do with Aldani. I don't know who she's looking for. So
And it is so cold blooded. He's like, oh well, this is great. She's gonna go on a wild goose chase,
yeah,
and when they finally catch up to them, what they'll kill him. They'll kill them.
yeah,
That's fine. Like
yeah,
no harm to me. And that's when Lonnie's like, "Are you kidding me? Like you're not
yeah.
going to warn anybody. You're just going to let them all die." I will say this, I was looking at Andor's IMDb for this episode. Uh Luthen's quote is literally the first and only quote on its IMDb. When Lonnie says, "What have you sacrificed?" Luthen says, "Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chances at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. my anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight. They've set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearned to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use my tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see, and the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So, what do I sacrifice? Everything.
Yeah.
Amazing. It was so great.
It was. It really was. And it's telling to where Skarsgård is as a character, like playing the character of Luthen. And it really works incredibly well. Like that's about all I can say. Is like it's just it's chilling and that back alley scene kind of reminds you of the dealings that Dooku would have with Palpatine, or what Palpatine would do with other people like coming in that hood, and he's got the flowing cape, but he's coming with more openness. He's not hiding who he is to the people he's meeting. He's just because Luthen, the rebel leader and the rebel spy coordinator, is who he is. He is not the antiquities dealer. So you could almost say his long haired wig is his hood.
It's his
And
mask. Yeah,
yeah. Um, so it was really cool scene, really well shot. Overall, this episode's really great. I still think last episode, the tension just keeps for the last episode was just like there the whole time. Whereas this one, it's your traditional. It feels very traditional television, other than
yeah,
it looks really fantastic and great performances. Last week's, I think, was just a unique episode.
for sure. 100%. But that is it for our review of
Yes. Where do
Andor.
you think we're going to end up with the last two episodes?
Yeah, I was gonna say there is only 2 more episodes.
Yep.
Programming note, because this is something that me and Katie have already talked about. Um, Katie and I are going to attempt to record episodes 12 review early, I believe is what we have
Yeah.
planned.
Try to
Um,
record it that morning.
yeah,
Because Knives Out is screening Wednesday night. And that is going to be the only time I get to go see it if it's in theaters. Otherwise, I have to wait until December. And with this movie, I am not patient. I love a Ryan Johnson flick, and I want to go see this one in theaters. So
yes. So with Katie being out, we're gonna record it early. Of course, the episode will drop on Thursday, so there will not be a live episode that Wednesday. Not to worry. Uh, but I believe that is also isn't that
Convergence.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there will be a double drop with Convergence and the of course finale of Andor. So you'll get twice
And
the
obviously, y'all, and I'll say it next week too, but obviously enjoy your time with your family. I know I will. The episodes will be there when you get back, but family comes first.
All in the Game asks, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Yes, I am watching it tomorrow
Yep.
at
Same
3
here.
p.m. Central Standard Time. But uh, my joke was
6:55 Eastern for me.
6 so that's 5. So you're going to be watching it as soon as I get out.
Yep.
That's pretty well timed. The joke that I was going to make is you get twice as much Star Wars on Thanksgiving as you will turkeys. So but with that, guys, of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter, but now also on Mastodon. I don't know how the best way to search because you could ask Katie, you could ask Travis. I was having a really weird time this
You
morning trying
do
to
have to
navigate that
search
thing.
with the server end on it. So you just can't look up Fanboy Clay. You have to look up, I think you're on what, C.N, I think.
C.im, yes.
Yeah. And whereas like I'm on like mstdn.social. So I'm on there. It's at Slice of Katie. I have no posts yet,
But
but
the thing that I have now learned is everyone you follow is still on your feed,
yep,
but like the more that you or get in connections with different servers and everything else, those comments will stay on those servers. So I
yep,
think that is pretty cool. Um, but go check us out on Mastodon. I will attempt to see if I can make a quote unquote second account on Mastodon. So we do have Star Wars Alliance over there. So be on the lookout for that. You can always find me on those as well as on all the podcasts that I host, that including Batman News Weekly, Star Wars Alliance, and of course, Ranger Alliance. Katie, what about you?
you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. The show is on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Land. So the 8 in the war is very important. Don't forget it. Um, Next week, Andor, episode 11. And I think also the High Republic uh, issue number 2, I think, is out next week. If not, then it's Thanksgiving and we'll come back to it first week of December because, yeah, priorities. Um, no, the first week of December will probably be a huge comic episode because I think right now there's 8 issues set to drop November 23rd between
That's
Dark
insane.
Horse and Marvel. So yeah. Anyways, um, Slice of Film is on Twitter as well. That's my other show on the Golden Lions Podcast Network. We are talking about Adam's Family next week in preparation for the Wednesday show that is dropping on Netflix. So y'all can make sure to check that out on Monday. And with that, I want to share a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.
See ya.